one thing I'm reminded of as I start this fan shape that has some obstruction by the state on it is, while these fans have 8 chips, these ones actually have more. So as this cuts across, I've got this section is 2 different chips, this one's 2 different chips, whereas over there it's all one continuous. So it's kind of one of the things that I keep in mind when thinking about how long it takes to carve, or if someone asks me how long it took to carve something, is not just the size or even the level of detail or challenge that went into it, but actually just the number of chips that every time the knife goes into the wood, it just takes a little bit more time. And so even on kind of a small scale like this, where just a few of these are kind of doubled up, it will actually end up taking a bit longer to do this section, even though it's kind of the same thing as what I have already done. So again, as I come along the outline here, lifting the knife up to a near vertical angle, which we usually want to avoid, but in this case, being intentional with that discrepancy of knife angle helps to draw the contrast between the rosette and the state over top of it. Probably get a little bit more there still. So again, trying to maintain the same general principle of having the point in the same spot, those 2 lines, and then one more coming out that way. A little bit hard to see here, but we've got those 2 and just a tiny bit of line right along the bottom there before it runs into the edge of the UP. I'm going to go ahead and cut off this section just outside, and intentionally at a shallower angle than I'm going to end up, just so I can remove some of that wood, see what I'm doing, and make sure I don't rip any chunks out. So now we can see a little more clearly that consistent shape, the bottom of this chip. And I do find I kind of take a few passes at these. I want to get it at kind of just the right angle, again, to make it different, but I don't want to undercut or even make it really quite vertical. So I kind of take a few passes to get that just the right level of vertical angle that I'm looking for. So there at the end of that cut, as you may have seen other ones too, as I get to this edge, because I want this facet to not be lying down like this, but to be more vertical, I need to actually take the tip of the knife and drive it back to meet up with where I want that to be. And I end up having to do the same thing over here, because I can't, on this cut, as I'm pulling this way, I can't really drive it straight down along that line as well. So I end up needing to come back this way to get the tip in there again. And as I go along, I am trying to make sure that this near vertical angle is the same all along the outline, to make sure that that looks consistent with itself and like it's one cohesive whole. That's kind of one of the cool things. It ends up being almost an illusion in chip carving that there's an actual solid kind of piece or ridge, that runs along here, when really it's not. It's all one wood. I'm just cutting it out. But kind of creating that illusion of some structure that isn't really there. So it's the same thing with this outline, just a little, I guess, different variation of that kind of principle. This part's a little bit fussier since it's running right along the grain. It really wants to just kind of rip off on me. So now I've completed all of them that are above here. I'm going to come in underneath here now so I can finish this set, and then I'll do the two final ones all together. For these really small chips, I don't worry as much about that angle, vertical angle that I was talking about, and trying to make everything line up all perfectly. It doesn't really show up the same on this small scale, but I do try to offset a little bit. I'm just not quite as particular about exactly how that's going to end up looking. And as these chips move out and get a little bit bigger, I'll have a little bit more room to work with and pay attention to that detail. Last one here. Alright, just about home free on this obstructed fan shape here. Alright, I noticed as I was going along this edge, I'm coming against the grain, and the knife started kind of coming off the line that I wanted a bit, so I'm going to come back and touch up these cuts going with the grain to back it out onto the pattern line just a little bit closer to where I wanted it. Alright, and there we have it.